On November 22nd of 1963, United States President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was shot and killed in Dallas, Texas. He was making an appearance to gear up for his 1964 re-election campaign. There had been several assassination threats and at least one thwarted attempt only 20 days earlier. The death of President Kennedy sent the whole country into a period of mourning. Some states declared the day of his funeral a legal holiday to allow banking government workers the day off. There was a nationwide moment of silence at the beginning of his funeral. When he heard about JFK's assassination, civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. reportedly told his wife, "This is what is going to happen to me also. I keep telling you, this is a sick society." And nearly 6 years later, on April 4th, 1968, his prediction came true when he was shot and killed on the balcony of a Memphis hotel. Though his killer, James Earl Ray, was eventually caught and brought to trial, that was nearly 2 months after King's death. The time between revealed how fragile race relations in America were at the time. While the nation went through a time of mourning after JFK's death, the reaction to King's death was much more explosive. Many black activists saw King's death as proof that his message of nonviolence wasn't working, and the only way to get anything done was through rioting and violence. In a lot of the cities where the rioting took place, race relations were already strained, with the worst of the riots occurring after local events caused the black community to feel the need to retaliate. In Louisville, for example, there was civil unrest and small riots after King's assassination. But it wasn't until May 27th when police were called to handle an African-American protest of a white officer being reinstated after beating an African-American man that the riot truly began. All told, about 110 American cities saw unrest following King's death. In most cities, it wasn't until the National Guard was called in that things finally settled down. Dozens were killed and thousands more were injured during the rioting. Though immediately after his death there was plenty of grieving at home, the assassination of JFK may have also led to more violence and helped to escalate America's involvement in Vietnam. After the botched Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, and the successful, though panned by military advisors, Cuban Missile Crisis of '62, Kennedy became wary of more direct confrontation with communist forces. Instead of trying to defeat communism head-on, Kennedy opted to contain it and prevent the further spread of it. Under Kennedy and before, there had been American soldiers in Vietnam, but they were largely in advisory and assistance positions. It is believed that if Kennedy had survived Dallas and been re-elected, he would have likely withdrawn American forces from Vietnam altogether. But after the Gulf of Tonkin incident, Kennedy's successor, Lyndon Baines Johnson, was able to deploy conventional American forces in Vietnam without a declaration of war from Congress. This began what we in America typically think of when we think of the Vietnam War.